Charles Dubronx Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. So, full disclosure, I'm a bigger fan of Charles than I am of Michael. Um, I just feel like Chandler's a little bit too artificial in that he's never met a soundbite he doesn't like. Now, that said, that doesn't take away from his capabilities as a fighter. But let's break down this fight. This again is a rematch with what a terrific first match that was. It was so back and forth where I think the audience, we were on the edge of our seat because it looked at any moment that one of the other of these men was about to win, but the tide kept turning. So let's take a look at each fighter. So what I like about Charles, or what I think works in his favor, is I feel that Charles is the superior striker. I feel that he puts his punches together with a little more responsibility, meaning not leaving himself open to a counterpunch. And for sure, Charles has the superior jiu-jitsu game, meaning getting his opponent on the ground and then working seamlessly into submissions. Charles is one of those MMA fighters that doesn't just try to get top position and lay and pray, or get into position and ride somebody out, so to speak. He works straight into submissions. If he doesn't like that position, he'll transition from one submission to another. I mean, truly a master of his craft in the ground game submission. Now, Chandler, on the other hand, is a very dynamic striker, but he's like a one-shot KO type striker, meaning he's just so dynamic and so explosive. He can do a high risk, high reward type move and potentially knock his opponent out. But the question is, can he afford to take those risks versus Charles? Because sometimes when Chandler throws his punches, he brings his other arm way back. He leaves his guard wide open, so he's open for a counter shot if he doesn't land his KO shot. Now, one area where Chandler, I feel, does have an advantage over Charles is in the wrestling department and being able to close distance and then get Charles to the canvas. Now, the only issue with that, of course, is that once Chandler gets Charles down on the ground, if that's his goal, I mean, Charles is just such a magnificent jiu-jitsu expert that is somewhat risky. So Chandler might be better off just trying to press Charles against the cage and then dominate him from that position, just sort of try to stay heavy on Charles and inflict strikes at close range, or maybe even try to get him into a position where he could secure a rear naked choke, kimura, or guillotine. But the key there, I think, would be Chandler would really need to have Oliveira pressed up against the cage, either standing or sitting, so that he can kind of use the cage as another weapon or an ally to try to manipulate Charles into position to get the submission. Now, that's definitely not going to be an easy task because, again, I mean, Charles should be sort of wary of that position and figure out, I'm sure he's figured out, he's worked ways to get off the cage and get to the canvas floor itself. So in this particular matchup, I feel that Charles has the ability to either win by a decision or by a KO or a sub, whereas I feel like Michael's one way of winning would be to knock out Charles with one of his crazy single hard flying shots, whether it's flying knee, a kick, or like a big overhand punch. I feel like that's just the type of fighter Chandler is. He's like this high risk, high reward type fighter. Who do you guys have winning, Charles or Michael? Let me know in the comments.